All right. Ready?
Let's go.
This is gonna be great. Or maybe not. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Today is a special episode of Worm Dangler TV Garage Talk. Episode, how many episodes have I got now? 6? 5? 5. 5.
5.
6.
This is 5.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, we got a special guest tonight. The first guest I've ever had on the Garage Talk. So it's a little weird, so bear with us. This here's my brother, Joel. You're in town for like 2 days, basically.
Yesterday and today.
Yep. Came home for a wedding, as you probably have seen by now, or maybe not have seen by now. I don't know if I get, depending if I get the video up and which video I get up first, I guess. So what I want to do is obviously we talked about this beforehand. We'll talk to you about the mental illness thing. Mm-hmm. We had talked after one of my previous videos on anxiety and stuff like that. Joel, you've been in the military for how many years?
13 and a half years.
And what's your rank and all that, and battalion and all that stuff?
So I'm a staff sergeant in the Army. I'm also a mechanic, and then I'm also a manager of 250 wheeled vehicles and light track vehicles. So I've been in for 13 and a half years. I'm stationed at Fort Hood, Texas, and then I'm currently on my way to Fort Lee, Virginia, to be an instructor up there as well.
And you're basically over like the motor pool, or not motor pool, I don't know what you guys call it. The motor pool. What exactly do you do?
My basic job is to sit in the motor pool office, and I manage the entire program for what the commanders and the battalion commanders, what they want us to do.
Okay. I've never really asked you all that because I knew you did something with working on them, but now as far as you've gotten up in ranks enough, now you're just managing everybody.
Yeah, I manage a program. I have 26 soldiers that are under me. I have 4 non-commissioned officers that I'm in charge of, and then I work with all my other line teams, which do with all the tanks and our Bradleys and stuff like that. So we work as a big collective unit and make sure we get it out the door for any mission.
What do you work on most? I mean, what does your guys work on most? Just anything and everything they bring to you, or is it?
So my guys mainly work on the Humvees, and then our larger vehicle fleets, our LMTVs, our HEMTT vehicle styles.
That's cool.
And then my light tracks are the 113s, 1060H, which is a command track post and stuff like that for our battalion.
And do you, what was I going to ask you? I had it in my head 2 seconds ago. Now, I remember you were doing some like basically like kind of running a tow truck or something. Mm-hmm. You still do all that, or is that since you moved up now?
I moved up. I did that for 2 years when I first went to Fort Hood. Mm-hmm. I ran what's called a recovery section. So we had 2 tow trucks, and then I had the tank recovery vehicles. We had 3 of those that I was in charge of.
That's cool. So you said how long you been in now?
13 and a half.
13 and a half years. How many years are you going to go?
20 as far as I can go. I mean, I can go further once I get up more in rank, but
from where you're at now,
where I'm at now, I can go up to 20. And then once I get my next rank, then I go to 24 years, and then.
And you see, how many? You've been overseas a few times.
I've been in 7 countries and 13 years.
And where? I know you went to Iraq once, mm-hmm. Right? Where were you at in Iraq?
I was in Baghdad.
And I know you just came back. What, a couple months ago?
I came back in February from
Poland. So, with all these people you've met, I mean, obviously you've come across a lot of this, the PTSD and, the issues with that and anxiety and stuff. And I know we've talked about a lot of anxiety because I was talking about my anxiety. Mm-hmm. What, as far as, with you guys in the military, I mean, do you see a lot of guys claim PTSD or anxiety, and you do you see where there's maybe they really don't have it? You know, we kind of talked about this last night, where I think a lot of people, PTSD is kind of a loosely used term.
It is. It is a very loose term to use. There's been a lot of soldiers who kind of fake it to get the money for it, but then there's the soldiers that have real issues, huge issues that make things a little bit more complicated for us to treat.
Do you ever notice with, say, the guys who have the real issues that they probably don't necessarily talk about it compared to the guys who don't have it and talk about it all the time? I mean, is that a thing? Is it just me? Is that...
It's just based off of the person. I mean, it depends on how they want to do it. You know,
Yeah.
I've never really brought any of my issues up until you started doing this, and we kind of talked about the anxiety issue with what I have, and then what I'm being seen for, and then we've also gone over, you know, there's some soldiers that go through and they do talk about it. If they feel comfortable enough to talk about it, they will.
Yeah.
But then you got some that will kind of brag about it, and those are the ones you kind of like, no, like, hey,
Yeah.
you may not have it, but you are kind of bragging about it.
And that was, you know, we were, like I said, we had talked about this last night at the wedding. I feel like a lot of people just loosely use these terms, especially with anxiety. And I noticed that more because, you know, with me having anxiety, and I've really looked into it, and I've really started, you know, kind of putting two and two together of, you know, okay, this is my problem, you know, and I start looking into it, and I say, okay, now it all makes sense. But then a lot of people just say, oh, I have anxiety. You know, it's a big difference out there, but so many people just kind of say, oh, I have anxiety, you know, whatever. They blame things on that when they really don't. And I feel like a lot of that too is with like people with depression and stuff. And I feel like anxiety and depression kind of go hand in hand. And I feel like you know, if you have anxiety, you may not always have depression, but if you have a depression, you may not always have anxiety either.
So there's a lot of degrees of the depression, depending on where you're at or what you're doing. Like for me, when I was overseas, the depression of being away from family, you know, that was kind of depressed. Like the first time I went overseas to Korea, you know, I was depressed because I was away from all the family, which was you guys and, you know, mom, dad, and everybody else. And then going into Iraq, it was the depression kind of set in again about family and stuff like that, but it wasn't nearly as bad. So there's always degrees. Some people are more homesick, so that causes them to be a little more depressed, or people with kids and stuff like that. That depression sinks in a little bit more.
I know, like I said, I was touching on anxiety because it's just something that's on my end, you know. What triggers your anxiety? Like me, my biggest triggers are like being on time. You know, if I'm standing in line somewhere and like we're next in line and somebody's waiting on me, I want to be right there. I'm that kind of person. Whereas my wife's like, oh, it's fine, just give me a second, just fine, you know. Or a lot of times we're late because she's still getting ready or whatever, and that's my trigger. Is I don't want to be the person that's late. I don't want to be the person that's behind. What in your case, I mean, you know, would be your kind of trigger?
So my triggers, the biggest one that I've dealt with for myself is being in large crowds. As both of us have been DJs for many years, dealing with large crowds is just something we've always done. But since I've gotten away from doing that and being around large crowds, going to like Walmart, like our Walmart down in Killeen is, you know, most of those are huge. And there are just so many people, like it sets me off. And then setting me off means like my heartbeat just starts going really, really fast. I'm constantly checking for exits. I'm constantly scanning everybody. It feels like the walls keep coming in on me.
And you feel like a lot of that is just probably from the military?
A lot of that's just from military, being overseas.
Just always watching people.
Always watching for things, looking out for how people are moving, always being on guard. And then my second trigger would be kind of like what you said, is being on time, constant looking at time. I've noticed that more and more, especially after you've talked about it, and I kind of did a self-check on myself, and I was like, you know what, that's kind of makes sense, because I'm always trying to be on time. You know, like my routine on my daily basis is I try to be up by at least 4:10 or 4:15. If I'm a little bit late, you know, I start freaking out a little bit, and then I need to be out of the house by 5:10 at the latest. You know, if I don't make that time, I kind of know that by 5:20 I can't make my 2-mile run. You know, then once I miss my run or miss those times, then I kind of like, well, my day's kind of ruined. You know, and I go from there, and I'm like, and then one thing after another kind of boils in.
And that's with me. I'm almost the exact same thing. Is, you know, my day starts. I gotta be at work at 7 o'clock every day. I get up, and I don't have to go very far or really do anything before I go to work. So I just get up, I get ready, I'm out the door. I'm usually out of bed by 6:10. I'm out the door by 6:25, and I'm at work sitting in the parking lot by 6:45, 6:50. Now, granted, I don't have to actually clock in until 7 o'clock, but I'm always there 10 minutes early at least. Yeah. If I'm not there 10 minutes early, I am panicking. You know, I've got to the point where there's been times I'm driving to work, and it's, you know, I still got 2-3 minutes left, and I'm texting my boss, hey, I might be late. Yeah. In reality, I'll probably make it there on time. You know, so that's that anxiety thing. It's kind of a weird thing, and you don't notice you're doing it until people start talking about it. And that was kind of why I wanted to bring you up, because one, you're in town.
It's not very often we get together.
Not very often. And two, you know, like I said, being in the military, you've noticed probably a lot more from other people too. You know, you notice characteristics of what other people do that, you know, they might have the PTSD or whatever. And do they still call it PTSD in the military, or is it just PCS now?
PCS. So.
Yeah. See, and I never understood that, because I still feel like that's a disorder, but I feel like so many people have used it so loosely that they've changed it.
And that's been part of that issue is it's always been so thrown out there loosely. But like I said, most people have, you know, there's real issues. People do have real issues, and there's some that, of course, just like anything else, people do abuse that power. So
the other thing I wanted to bring up, something else we had touched on last night, it was kind of what was in my head, was, you know, we had talked about the gun issue and the mental health issue kind of going hand to hand. Now, I don't bring up a lot of politics on this channel, and I probably never will. I also don't show myself going out shooting or something. Yes, I'm a pro Second Amendment person. I've known you for years. You're a pro Second Amendment person.
I am.
Our dad is. So, and that was always my thing with the gun issues that are going on right now in America. What are your thoughts with? Are you for better background checks, or, you know, what is your thought on everything that's going on? You know, especially with the mental health thing, because like I told you last night, you know, I feel like there needs to be more. I feel like it's more of a mental health issue with the guns. You know, everybody wants to blame the gun, but I feel like, you know, gun's an inanimate object. You don't have your finger there to pull the trigger.
Yeah,
it can't hurt anybody.
I've always been a big believer that yes, the gun is the tool, right? It's the person behind it. If they have set in their head that that's what they want to do, they're going to do it, right? There's nothing that anybody. I mean, if they're at that point where they're willing to take somebody's life, they're at the point where nobody's going to be able to stop them unless they are apprehended or
physically
detained, you know, sorts. I mean, if those people are wanting to do that and wanting to do that harm, I mean, yes, I think somebody should step in and try to at least stop the situation and at least assess what is going on with that person. I mean, there's all kinds of signs. I mean, we're all been trained, most of us in the military are trained to, now we are trained to see those signs, those warning signs, especially when it comes to people that are wanting to do bodily harm. But there are just some people out there that just want to hurt themselves, and they're not going to show any signs. Like we just lost a fellow comrade a couple months ago that he took his own life, and there was no warning signs to his best friends that hung out with him daily.
And that was that, like, kind of going back, like the whole the issues in America. You know, I know, like I'm like I said, I'm pro Second Amendment. I am for stronger background checks. Am I for the FOID card? You know, I don't know if you because in Texas, do they have FOID cards?
No,
I know
concealed carry.
You have concealed carry, but like here in Illinois, we have FOID cards. And you have to have a FOID card before you can own a firearm. And I know not every state does that, but I mean, what's your thoughts on that? What do you think do you think every state should have a card, and then to get the card you need to go through an application process to maybe weed out people who have these mental instabilities?
Well, depending on, I know there's some of my fellow comrades that have mental issues and they've been denied a gun card because of that. But then it's also evaluated on somebody else's opinion on that disability. And it may not be somebody that knows what that disability means.
Right.
There's a lot of people who don't understand some of the things we've gone to. Doesn't mean that he's not able to have a weapon because of the mental issues that he's going through. Like, just because you have an anxiety issue, do you want your weapons to be taken away? I mean, no.
No.
I mean, that's not something. And it's also, again, it's all about being how we're all been brought up and raised. Dad brought us up to take care of ourselves and our weapons, and I treat those with respect. And then just because you have an anxiety issue or I have an anxiety issue, does that mean I'm not eligible to get a weapon again or hold a weapon again? I don't think so. I mean, but again, it's just my opinion.
And I totally agree with you. I mean, I've been the same way. I've always grown up, like you said, with the knowledge of a pistol or a weapon, and know what it can do, and you don't point it at something you're not willing to destroy. And it, I've been in situations where I go, man, I wish I had a gun right now, but then you go, no, I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
At the same time. But anyway. I was just always curious from a military standpoint where you guys stand. I've met a couple military guys that one very in particular, and I won't say who, but I met this guy and he worked with us for a little while, and he had some very weird outlooks on a lot of this stuff. And he'd been in, he'd done I think one tour in Iraq or something like that, and he was totally against it. He was like, guns need to be banned, and I'm like, I don't understand how you can come from being in the military and being raised this way and then totally turn your back on it. I mean, do you see other guys doing that too? Do you see other guys that have those same kind of...
I don't see a lot of that. I see some of it in the younger generation, but it's never, that's never really strongly expressed until they get out of the military. Once they're, take the green suit off and they go into their own lives and they kind of express those views. But that just also depends on how they were, or what missions or whatever they did in Iraq or Afghanistan.
You think that probably swayed them?
It's just depending on what they have done, or what's in the past, or I mean, their views may have been their views prior to coming into the military, and they put those views on the background just to get through the military contract, depending on the time of the service, and then when they get out, and maybe they go back to those same views. I mean,
same thing. Just did it for their time in or whatever.
Could be. I mean, people do all kinds of weird things at different times.
That's very true. Well, I appreciate you coming and doing this with me. I hope we can get a good video out of it at least. I will apologize, we have been having a few drinks, but we don't get together very often. You've been home, 2 years ago was the last time you were home? Oh, you were gone to Poland for a year.
I was gone to Poland for 9 months. Spent 7 of those months in Poland, and I spent 2 months in Germany for what's called our agricultural wash, and to prep everything and all the equipment to coming back to the States and go through customs.
And then you were here right before that, right? You were here right before you left.
So I was here last year in March.
So yeah, so it's been over a year, a little over a year since you got home. So, well, it's been great talking to you. I do appreciate it. I wish I had more questions for you, but I normally just wing this stuff, so I don't have a lot of questions for you. I wanted someone to come on and talk to me, and I figured after we had talked several times, I needed to put you on camera and have this conversation with you. So I do appreciate it, and I hope maybe we can have another talk someday.
Well, I appreciate you having me on there, and then I appreciate for all your worm danglers out there that keep watching this channel.
There's at least 17 that watch.
It's 18, I mean.
Oh, that's right, yeah. I forgot.
18.
I forgot.
And there's, how many subscribers?
60. We're up to 60
You guys
now.
need to hit the like button. Help this guy out a little bit, would you?
Leave some comments. We'll answer. If you want to ask Joel something, I'll ask him for you. So just hit us up on that. Also, there's a little bell up there by the subscribe button. Make sure you hit that so you can be notified every time a new video drops. So with that, we will leave you guys, and we'll see you next time on another episode of Worm Dangler TV.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.
I'm not, for whenever I was,
Sure, it happens to me all the time. I can edit that out.